Good morning. This is the New York City Board of Standards and Appeals Public Review Session for June 13th, 2016. We'll begin with a special order calendar decision items. Item number 1, 17304BZ, 5 West 37th Street, Manhattan.
Okay, I think they responded to all the issues. Anybody else okay with this? Yeah.
Item number 2, 20205BZ, 11-11, 131st Street, Queens.
Yes, and this one also, they responded to our concern.
Continued hearing items, item number 3, 63654BZ, 9612 Seaview Avenue, the Brooklyn, sorry.
The Brooklyn. I think we should just call all of the boroughs by the title. The Manhattan. They requested a 2-week adjournment, but I don't think there was a submission, so we'll need to give them more time. Maybe there was a submission, we'll find out. We can discuss it after, but, okay.
2-week adjournment?
Yep.
Item number 4, 20262BZ, 950 Allerton Avenue, the Bronx.
Okay, they submitted a landscaping plan, but I didn't notice the last time, but the majority of the plants are shown outside the property line on the public sidewalk, and I see that there's this green area there, but I don't know what that's the DOT's property as far as I know. Are they allowed to do this? And also, we asked that on the plan, all the existing and proposed planting be numbered and identified so that it can function as a guide in the future. It can't just be identified as existing bush. So either make a commitment to what it will be in the future or get that bush identified. And also, I'd like to know why the planting can't extend along Paulding behind the parking spaces. Part of the point of the shielding of the planting is so that the public doesn't see the parking lot. And then there were some open items which they didn't address again. So there was there were the questions about the wooden storage sheds, the use of the area behind the store, the collapsing fence wall and gate, the need for painting, vans at the rear to be removed, striping, and photos to show that all the work described is done, and repair the brick walls. So we talked about at the last hearing that wasn't responded to, and it hasn't been responded to again. This would help if we could at least move on with these things. Anybody else? Okay.
Item number 5, 32788BZ, 13628 39th Avenue, Queens.
They requested an adjournment.
Item number 6, 4-98BZ, 12704 Guy Brewer Boulevard, Queens.
They provided evidence of a 1999 DEC sign-off on the remediation. They provided a landscaping plan and signage analysis. I didn't see the response to questions about improving the surface of the parking and restriping that we talked about at some length, and the revised plans to show proper reference to the street trees, which is section 37-921, and they were supposed to also have corrected the proposed plans to reflect the current and proposed conditions. None of that was done. And also, as we've talked about before, the planting needs to be done prior to our decision. Anybody else?
New cases, item number 7, 11402BZ, 2493 Richmond Road, Staten Island.
Just had a couple of questions about this. I just wondered, is there supposed to be a difference between the last board-approved plans and the proposed? I didn't see any difference. And I just would like them to verify that all the landscaping is in good shape and that dead plants have been replaced, because the photos show there's some dead ones. There are, right?
It needs sprucing up in a major way.
Major way, so.
Overgrown with weeds.
And overgrown. Oh, weeding, I never think about weeding. Okay, so the landscaping plan needs to be updated to show the number and type of trees and shrubs, and all of those have to be installed and spruced before we make a decision. Okay, anybody else?
I think you mentioned that in the document we have something that says the community board disapproved it. Now, I don't know why, we don't have the reason for
Right.
the disturbance, so I would like some clarification.
Yeah, I think
I
it was
don't
a
know if that was,
mistake.
yeah, I don't know if this
they-
was based on the old one, so it would be helpful to
Yeah.
get a clarification on the
And there's also a very large urology sign in the parking lot, not installed on the building, but you get the feeling that it'll be reinstalled, you know,
So we
hopefully
took it down
not.
and take the picture and then they'll put it up?
Right, after the grant.
I
I
hope we
don't,
do.
Do you want the brackets and stuff in there?
well, I just don't think they should have the sign. I mean, they're limited because they're in a residential neighborhood to one of these smaller signs.
Well, if I took the structure down, because, yeah, I saw
You saw
it.
the sign?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Item number 8, 22004BZ, 500 Driggs Avenue, Brooklyn.
This one's, okay. All right. Just a note, they're requesting an extension of the operating hours for the weekends. The statement of facts mentions that additional acoustical isolation measures have been installed since the initial grant. That leads me to believe that there were complaints, right? Otherwise, you don't spend money like that. So to that end, then I'd like to know whether tenants have been notified of this application, which is not normally required by our rules. So I think that there should be a posting in the lobby of the building that this is up for hearing and the tenants should be notified, and also whether there have been any complaints since the installation of the acoustical measures. I'd like to know whether the fire alarms and sprinklers are working and approved, because there's no discussion of this in the statement of facts, even though there's another document that says go look at the statement of facts for a response to that. There isn't. The notes on the drawings do indicate that the building is fully sprinklered and there's a fire alarm system in the PCE, but they should provide backup on this installation and sign-offs and the proper operation. Anybody else?
Just that they say that they have 48 square feet of signage, but I didn't know if that included all the banners
Yeah.
at the second
Yeah.
floor.
Right. And I was a little confused with the square footage. That was, I know the applicant clarified that there was the previous BSA approval, the square footage that was indicated as to what was actually approved, there was a discrepancy, and that was being corrected, but I still think that there's an inconsistency in the way I'm counting the total floor area that was built post the BSA approval and what it's there before, and I would like some clarification. So just in terms of example, as proposed, the net floor area, including the PCE, the office, and the common area comes to like 13,000 square feet, whereas what was approved, the total floor area, which included at that time PCE and office and everything, came to 12,011 square feet.
So more was built,
Yeah,
but it didn't include the lobby, or it did include the lobby? I thought that was the problem, they didn't include the
well, I
lobby.
think yeah, it just was not clear to me, so
Okay,
I would
so
like some
just-
clarification.
Okay. Anybody else?
And do we need to include a sign plan, a signage plan? Is that-
Well, yeah, well, they should have a signage calculation sheet and to show the signage on the drawings.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think a signage plan was included.
Okay.
Appeals calendar, item number 9, continued hearing, 24415A, 677 Fifth Avenue, Manhattan.
Okay, such an interesting question. So, as fate, I have gone by this site many, many times. I've gone during the day, I've gone in the evening, I've gone really late at night. And and I've also, by way of comparison, looked at other similar types of installations of video stuff, or, and I don't want to use the word sign because that's what this is about. Is this a sign, right? Or some kind of backlit screen stuff. And like just up the street, there are backlit screens that are set very far back to show, actually, I think it's, they're actually video screens that show fashion models walking on a runway, right? And it's set really, really far back. And that's clearly part of the installation within the shop. And so I don't believe that an installation within the shop is a sign that can be regulated. And so, but standing in front of this building, what I noticed at all the different times that I was there is when I'm trying to focus on this culture wall, because that's the job, right? My eye kept getting brought down to the lower floor, where there were like laptops dancing across the room, and then they would like decompose and turn into like little guys running around in fields and things like that. And so actually, the advertising, if anything, or it was like the accessory advertising, if anything, was going on the lower floors with all of those screens that are really, really long. They go all the way back to the back of the store. They start pretty close to the front, and some of them are on columns towards the back, and they all read together, and it depends on where you stand, north or south, but you get to do the same thing north or south. So basically, my eye is drawn to that because they're much brighter, and because they're really active in lots of things. And then I looked up at the one that I'm remembering. I look up at the culture wall, which is set back, and there's this beautiful thing going on. Like there's an Escher interior thing going on, and the Escher is deconstructing, and the floor is falling out, and the walls are moving back, and it's kind of this, it's just this beautiful thing. And so I'm like, well, that doesn't have anything to do with what I'm looking at with the little computers dancing around. And so the first part of it is I look at it and I say, what does that have to do with anything that we're seeing in the store, the cultural wall? Didn't see anything. And then the second part of it is, it's really far back. It's further back than the video screens that are clearly advertising product or encouraging you to come into the store because to buy this product or look more at the product. So, just from an experiential point of view, I see that. And then we learn just from this mission that the programming on the cultural wall is they're using outside consultants to design it. So you can see why there's like this Escher thing that is a completely separate thing. They're talking about using old software, but you can't rely on old software to keep running this thing. So, you know, eventually this software will need to be upgraded when the system crashes. With respect to the Uniqlo display that was mentioned, it seems to me that reinforces the argument that this is not a regulatable sign, because DOB itself said if you've got something that's not related to the product back, then it's not a regulated sign. And then the next part of it is this subject of the subject of being in a window. I thought the arguments from both sides were actually both going to the extreme absurds of the argument. So in a window clearly isn't stuck to the window. That's not what in a window means. And in a window is also not anything that you can see from outside the window. According to that, you'd be regulating. So the next part of my investigation was like a drive up 6th Avenue and a drive up 3rd Avenue where I could see something like 50 feet back from the street line, gigantic video screens or enormous signs that as clear as day you can read the name of the building. Accessory advertising, if that were accessory sign, if that was right at the front, right? But 50 feet back, it's not regulated. You can read every word. It's intended for you to read every word. So either we regulate as deep as the zoning lot, or we got to stop somewhere. And I think that it's very clear if you look historically at what in a window meant. It was the storefront, right? What were storefronts? They were 3 feet. Maybe they were 6 feet. Those were like the exaggerated ones, right? And what I think is, you know, I always think of this song, How Much Is That Doggy in the Window? It's sitting there in the little storefront there, right? So I think that personally, that DOB is overreaching when it grabs whatever you can see And I also think that in this case, there's no nexus. And I just want to point out something where I was concerned about DOB's misinterpretation of the Bravo decision, that Bravo did not stand for the proposition that anything at all that directs attention is a regulated sign. It's absolutely not what Bravo stood for, and I don't know how that even happened, how that appears in their papers. But that was the whole point of the multiple hearings that we had that led us to the actual conclusion, which was consistent with the prior determination, that there must be a reasonable nexus between the imagery, text, etc., and the activities on the site. Being showy isn't enough. Next.
I think well said. I agree with each and every point that you've made.
Right, and, DOB needs to, I guess, update and discuss more clearly, how far beyond a glass window is considered in a window, and also the nexus issue. And also, I didn't understand their definition of flashing, because they said this culture wall was a flashing sign, but the HP sign was not a flashing sign. And they're both videos.
do the same
And I
thing.
think the HP sign actually is faster. It's like, when do you decide something's flashing? I guess, they have this 30-second rule, but the HP sign, they said it's a non-flashing, but it doesn't follow any 30-second rule. So I didn't understand how they interpret what's flashing either.
Yeah, I agree. I had a problem with understanding about flashing, but I also had sort of an issue about, they talk about, well, if there's something in front of
The mannequin.
yes, the mannequins, and it could be anything. It could be anything that's in front of. It just seemed a little amorphous for me, and I'd like DOB to discuss a little bit more about the HP sign, which is a sign, I guess, under DOB rules, and how they really equate what we're looking at, and because the HP sign doesn't call your attention necessarily to HP. It's all about kind of the world. You see these
I
visions
just-
of the world.
That's what I thought, but on going back, they actually do have HP comes
Do they?
into the video.
Ah,
Yeah.
but they're not
to make
supposed to
it-
actually do that, right? They should get a violation for that.
It actually flies right in there, HP and something about their,
Because I've only
computer
seen
solution
I've only
thing.
seen the camel, and people walking on the street. It's disturbingly like your size, and if you're driving, you could drive by there and you think like somebody's like actually coming across at you.
Oh, great.
Again, it's a little it's a little real, but I know I agree with what the chair has said. Where do you stop? Where do you say it's not in the window? Is it perception? But that's not what we want. We don't want individual perception. We need to have a standard that everybody can follow. And is it the ratio? Does it appear to be bigger, and therefore the further back you go, the bigger it is? Does it take up the whole window? That to me just smacks of sort of individual enforcement. I look at it and I go,
I know
not
it when I
really.
see it.
And Ryan looks at it and goes, no, it's bigger than the window, so it's got to be a sign. So I think we need to drill down maybe a little further on this.
I think all of you have said everything that I was concerned about. I really did not understand how the Uniqlo application made the argument. It actually confirms everything that the Microsoft's sign is refuting. So I'm just not clear at the intent, and I think as I read every element of the Uniqlo thing, it just goes and shows that if there was a computer in front of that sign, then that would be considered as a display wall, and we wouldn't be having this application almost. That's
Right.
kind of like the way around it. But
Makes no
makes no
sense.
sense. I mean, it's just inconsistent, and the nexus argument, I'm not getting that here, and just not convinced.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the Uniqlo, it seems like what they're really looking at is those elevators like storefronts, right?
Yeah.
And a storefront always has objects at the front, often mannequins wearing clothes, and then something going on in the back. Usually, it could be the landscape of where you wear that outfit, or it could be an art installation, like the Barney's windows are almost always that. There's an art installation at the back, and there's the mannequin wearing the clothing at the front. So, I mean, or it could be a sign that says cheap, $2.99 this week, right? So
Come now, big sale.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Next.
New cases, item number 10, 260, 261, 15A, 122, 130 Bard Avenue. One of these cases is being withdrawn.
Right, so that needs to be clarified. I don't really understand why one is being withdrawn. I'm wondering, that's the building number 130. I'm thinking maybe because it considers the driveway frontage. I just don't understand why you can withdraw that, but anyway. So that needs to be made clear in the materials. There was very vehement opposition by the borough president and the community board. There was a response, sort of, to the borough president's comments, but I'd like to have them demonstrate much more clearly that it complies totally with the zoning resolution. I did look at the zoning calcs and looked up the relevant sections, but for example, the zoning calcs themselves indicate that the minimum distance, and that's the correct standard, between buildings under section 23-711 is 45 feet, which is true in the front to back relationship on the site, but there's only 20 feet provided side to side, and distance is distance, window to window or window to wall, so I don't understand why this doesn't have to have that same standard. And then I couldn't find anything in the zoning resolution that indicates you can't do this, but I wondered whether the proposed cluster actually thwarts the 35-foot minimum lot requirement of the R3X by placing 4 dwelling units on the same zoning lot. The zoning resolution is clear that you can meet the lot area requirement with multiple units, but it actually probably relies on the 45-foot minimum distance to ensure that you get a 35-foot minimum lot width. So I actually think that those two are intended to work in tandem, and that it probably doesn't comply with the distance rule. The description in the cover letter also states that the tandem parking has been reduced to 2, but I don't know how you pull a car out of the garage without pulling out the 2 tandems, so I don't understand that statement at all. And then the 30-foot wide fire access lanes appear to have stairs within the dimensions. Those are run-over stairs by a fire truck. Also, they need to show on the drawings the location of the no parking signs and indicator striping for the area where there's no parking. And I'd like the fire department to comment at the hearing on, they already signed off on this, but I'd like them to take a look again, to comment on parking on the fire access road and on a restrictive covenant and whether that should be instituted here. And there needs to be a note on the plans that both rear buildings are fully sprinklered. Anybody else?
I had a question about, I guess, the tax lot 110, which is that sort of sliver on the side. And how is that being treated? What is that? I assume you can't build on it. You couldn't be able to build on it. But why is it sort of this hanging chad? It doesn't seem to.
Because it's not incorporated into any of the other lots.
But it keeps that, I guess it keeps their 5-foot side yard, right, on that side. maintains that side yard. So I should imagine that that would have to be included in this application, because it says not included. So I'm not sure. They need to explain that.
Regarding the status of the fire access road, I would like them to just explain, is this going to be a private street or is this just a driveway? And they don't really explain how it's going to be constructed. I know the fire code has certain minimum requirements, but none of that is shown on the builder's pavement plan. They only talk about the intersection with Bard Avenue. And then the fire department plan is not the same as our plan in a number of ways. So we're not looking at the same thing. And there is a zoning section 2564, which restricts the use of open space that's not covered by buildings. You can't exceed a certain amount for parking, driveways, roadways, blah, 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 blah. So I think they should show that they comply with that, because they're using an awful lot of the open
Yeah.
space for parking and roadways, et cetera.
Yeah, that's great.
Paved, a lot of paved surface.
Yeah. Good point.
As per section 25622, it requires a zoning lot width of at least 30-foot frontage, which this one meets. Cannot have more than 20-foot wide driveway. And this site will have two driveways, one that leads to the back and the other one, the front driveway, that is going to serve the front two tax lots. So the total width is going to exceed the 20-foot. So I would like some clarification as to how and if it complies. And also, the last submission indicated that based on a DOB memo, a determination was made regarding the GCL waiver, and if they could provide a copy of that. I'm not familiar with it, so I would like to get a copy just to get an understanding.
Right. That's what they're relying on to remove 130 from
Yes,
the...
yes.
Okay.
Zoning calendar, decision items, item number 11, 30-12BZ, 14241 Roosevelt Avenue, Queens.
Okay, they submitted revised plans to show more appropriate planting and stuccoing of the block walls, the mechanical equipment with sound buffering, so I think maybe there. Okay. Anybody else?
It's okay with me.
Item number 12, 44-15BZ, 145 Central Park North, Manhattan.
They requested that we defer decision by 3 months to allow them to do a phase 2, and they need to also do a zoning analysis because in the ZQA text affected the allowable bulk and actually renders some of what they've asked for not moot, let's say, not necessary. You want to add it?
No.
Okay.
Their letter didn't specifically mention the DEP things, but that is also an outstanding item.
Yeah.
Continued hearing items, item number 13, 18813BZ, 20 Daya Court, Staten Island. This application is being withdrawn.
It says they wanted to withdraw the BZ case and adjourn the A case?
Yes, the A case is going to be adjourned. They're going to amend the A case to change the application and add on. It's going to be like residential.
Oh, okay.
Item number 14, 32213BZ, 4201 Main Street, Queens.
Okay, the drawings now show the number, spacing, and type of shrub to be planted in ground. They're still waiting for the Alt 1 resolution. I don't know why that's so hard, but anyway. It states that the off-site parking for 18 cars will be at 42-25 Main Street, but after spending a lot of time on this, the correct address is 4235 Main, not 4225. And it needs to be referred to as former tax lot number 66, Department of Finance, tax lot C881, otherwise you can't find it. At that address and lot number, there is a C of O for 298 accessory use group 6 parking spaces. The deck needs to be sure to refer to the correct site. And the C of O should be attached to the restrictive declaration. The restrictive declaration should include, so it should include language that the C of O of the subject property of 42-01 Main may be revoked if the required 18 spaces are not provided at 4225 Main. So, if there's a change in leasing agreement or something like that, they must provide the parking elsewhere. So, and that's it. Anybody else?
Do they need to do the deck before?
Yeah, deck before decision.
And
They're recording.
they're going to be doing the plantings
And they're going to do the
also.
planning before
But
decision.
the planting layout was okay with me.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at, there's so many parking spaces at that other site. It makes you even want to say, why don't you alleviate some of the crowding and put more there? But,
Well, I'd like to see also a map of where that entrance to the parking area
It's on the
is.
same
it's on the
block,
same
yeah.
block, it's around the corner.
Oh, okay, but they should show us.
They should, yes, absolutely. Okay, so provide a site plan showing the location of the parking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, ready?
Item number 15, 2414 BZ, 10602 Sutter Avenue, Queens.
They're waiting, they did make that, okay. So I think they cleared up the open questions, and what they did do finally was clarify that it's a dual application now for a special permit under 73-621 for a tiny increase in floor area, and then the rest under the original, under the rest of the variance. Okay.
Their measurements now add up on the plot plan, but they still are haphazardly, half in feet and inches and half in decimals. They're just not getting it.
They're not, yeah, I noticed that. But you know what? DOB will keep rejecting their application
Until they get it right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that may scare God into them. Okay.
Item number, may I go on?
Uh-huh.
Item number 16, 18114 BZ, 670 92nd Street, Brooklyn.
Sorry. Okay, so we still don't have the community board recommendation as far as I can tell. The project was modified to reduce the height by 1 story and eliminate therefore the floor area waiver, which is good. The fire stairs were placed in the side yards, which helped some of the layout. I don't know why they didn't expand more into at least the side yard that's adjacent to the school building, to the school site, which is enormous. Because I think that would have also helped to kind of free up some space for classrooms. They were supposed to have, and they didn't give us anything on improving the uniqueness study. It was supposed to have been refined and strengthened. They didn't give us anything new. And also, I'd like a little discussion tomorrow with the architect on to what extent the retention of the existing foundations is an asset or is adding to the hardship, because I think it's actually creating the hardship. My preference here is, because it's cleaner, is to go for uniqueness finding. And so I think the uniqueness study really does need to be clarified. It was almost there, but we had a lot of questions at the last hearing, and none of those were answered. With respect to the programmatic needs analysis, we asked them to include adult programs in the scheduling, and I only saw a couple, and I thought that there was much more adult activity there, since it's basically the scheduling showing that the building is basically empty during the day. And as we've seen at other kinds of like community houses, there's a lot of things that you can do in these community centers during the day, you know, classes for the elderly and whatever, you know, workshops, there's like all kinds of stuff. So I'm curious why they're not showing that. I also like to know from a plan perspective, we talked about this last time, why there are so many stairs. There are stairs to the cellar, from the cellar to the first floor, 2 of which link directly to the classrooms at the first floor and can't qualify as fire egress because they're blocked by the fire stairs, and you can't exit through a classroom. So, and it seems like that unnecessarily uses up stuff in the side yard, and you could have shifted the classrooms, you could spread it out more, which would lower the height still. Also, the first floor rooms, according to the programmatic needs analysis, are UPK, but they need to be labeled as such on the drawings. It sounds like only 2 of them are UPK, unless they didn't update the programmatic needs analysis. So they need to show their capacity, and if they double function, that should be shown as well. And also, I found this very strange. So some of the room layouts didn't change at all. They're identical to the prior plans, yet the classroom capacity and the square footage of the rooms went down. So, especially like at the 3rd floor, for example, it's an identical layout, and we lost all of these, you know, all of this occupancies to, like, in order to make it look more like they're giving up more, but I don't understand how that happened or why. I also am not understanding, and this has to do with this, what I think of as the hardship created by keeping the foundations, why the cellar isn't treated as a cellar. I think that the effort to reuse the existing foundations is not serving the project's response to neighborhood character issues or the minimum variances. The front incursion on the yard, which we also talked about the last time, probably could be eliminated if you didn't need 2 lobby levels. You enter, you go upstairs, you go up an elevator, there's another lobby. If you didn't have those 2 lobbies, you could move all that stuff inside. The section through the stairs, there's a lateral section that's taken through the stairs, is inaccurate in showing foundations at the stairs themselves, since those stairs are outboard of the existing building. I got the impression that the plans were very lazily modified. It was kind of, 45 minutes at the desk in order to get the plans to look a little bit more like what could be submitted here. They can't be lazily modified. They're still not showing, as we asked them to do before, the height to the top of the solar panels, which they also call a trellis, or to the top of all the bulkheads. The bulkheads are different heights for some reason. I guess the elevator bulkhead would be a different height. The effective height of the building that we talked about before is to the top of the solar panels. So not only 3.5 feet higher than permitted, as is stated in the statement of facts, solar panels at that level are not permitted obstructions, so are part of the waiver. I'm not really understanding the need for these solar panels that are, increasing the height of the building so significantly. If they really are having an impact on energy retention, then I'd like to see what it is, because it is really having a significant impact on height. There needs to be a note added that the entire building will be sprinklered. I think that now the floor plate of the building with this little juts of the staircase is particularly awkward. We commented about the awkward design of the building last time. No modification of the design was done to reflect the stairs impact on the massing. So they should provide axonometrics and renderings so that we understand what this is really going to look like. I note that the auditorium, as a result of some of the reconfiguration, is now significantly larger, so there'll be more, potentially more users. So what is the auditorium going to be used for, and how will parking demands be met for those auditorium uses? We also discussed the use of the material IFAS. I know a lot about this material. This building is proposed to receive significant waivers from the board. It should be an asset to the neighborhood, not an eyesore, and the materials have to last. If the architect is insisting that IFAS is, the material of the future, I'd like to know what happens when it's damaged. Because IFAS damages when the guys put the ladder, drop the ladder against it because they need to fix flashing on the windows. The IFAS, it's foam. It just gives. Now there's a scar, and the only way that you can repair it was this terrible patch stuff, and which you can see. So that you don't get from other kinds of durable materials, and so I really have to insist that they not use styrofoam on the side of the building. So there were lots of unanswered questions as well. Why are the street trees being removed? We asked that before. What is the impact on the neighbors of the reduced side and rear yards? The statement of facts was not updated to reflect the revised project. We asked for adult education occupancies also, I mentioned that. We asked for a simultaneous uses chart. I think that we have now. The purpose of the large laundry room in the cellar was never explained. I absolutely don't understand why they need a laundry room unless they're going into the business. They were supposed to show a refrigerated trash storage area because they're going to be having weekly lunches or something like that. We stated that to accommodate different skill levels and student counts, the classrooms should be more flexible, that the plan is too rigid for the stated program needs. Like sometimes there are those breakouts, so there's only 6 students who are at that level. They put them in another room. The other room is big enough for 20. So you could actually have movable partitions or something where it's a more flexible layout.
Well, I just had a question about that because there seems to be, the program depends on these breakouts when it's only 175 people who need to fill up all the rooms. However, when you're up to like the 5-year count, it doesn't seem as if there are any more of a need for breakouts because it's almost like the rooms are all filled because there are now 250 people. So what changes in the program that now there's no longer any breakout? Was it something that they said to justify all of the space to begin with? Or does the program somehow change? Maybe now they have full classes of each type and they don't need breakout. I don't know, but I think they need to give us more information about that. And I just also had one other question. Did they ever provide backup for the assumption of the eventual doubling of the population within 10 years and the increase to 250, so that we know that that's an accurate assumption and they're not, overestimating the amount of people that will eventually be attending here? I say that simply because the size of the building now still seems like it's on the large size for who is in there, and it really is dependent upon them getting all of the growth that they anticipate within that time.
I don't think they actually answered that question, because I had that as a question as well. I'm concerned about the daily use of the building against the size of the building. That really their use group 3 school argument is really only based on 2 classrooms and 36 kids. And as we all know, you don't get your certification for UPK until after you've built what you're building, right? So it begs the question, what if they don't get certified? Then it sort of upends a little bit their arguments. So I think they need to justify that during most of the week they have a very limited, very small population, and then it's really, I guess, what is it, Friday to Saturday?
It's Saturday.
They have, they have the bulk of their students. So I would like to see that they use this building more to capacity during the weekday.
Yeah. It's almost like they should get together with another organization that has daytime needs, you know, because it's really a waste, like practically the lights are off,
Yeah.
you know, so.
And I also agree that the 15-foot front yard they should definitely try to keep that clear across the facade. If they reorganize their reception and office area, it seems to me that they have a lot of office area and a big reception area for a very limited student population. So I think that there's definitely room there to keep that 15-foot setback. And I too just don't understand why keeping the foundation is desirable. It causes them to have a split level at the entry, which is sort of driving this entire design.
Right.
And I should think that it would be more beneficial to enter at grade, have, your distinct floors at reasonable heights. I think it would definitely bring down the height of the building. And they can conceivably rejigger their foundation plan so that they have a better cellar that they can put their auditorium in, et cetera. Also had questions about why the auditorium was so large considering their population and what they say, is going to be their population. And I'm still not satisfied about the parking. I think they need to really discuss a little bit more why. I understand that kids don't drive, but the parents, I was like, really? Okay. But the parents do. And, they pick up their kids, they wait for them, they drop them off. It's, if they're only there for a couple of hours, it's probably not going to be a parent who's going to go home and then come back. They're probably going to try to park or figure out a way to stick around. So I think they need to really address that, which I don't think they did in a cohesive way.
So the apparent height of the building at the top of the trellis is like 48 feet, which is 10 feet higher than what they're saying, and it does not comply with 2451 regarding permitted obstructions for solar systems at all in terms of the height and the area of the roof. I didn't understand, the auditorium to me seemed to be underutilized, that even when the school is full with students attending class, it's not utilized as any kind of classroom space. I mean, it's a large auditorium, they could put in partitions and use it to some degree. I was concerned still about the height at the rear, adjacent to that residential yard. It's 3 stories now, but I don't see why they can't bring it down to 2 stories. And I'm concerned about this vault. It's causing them to cut down a large sycamore tree, and it's preventing them from putting in any new street trees. It's a residential neighborhood. I think it should fit into a residential neighborhood with landscaping and street trees.
Isn't there an existing vault?
No, there is no existing vault. They're putting the vault in to use as storage, and I don't really think it should, something we can approve, it shouldn't really be on our plans.
Right,
It's
that's
not
true,
a
they need a
DOT.
revocable consent, right?
Yeah, it's a DOT issue. So we don't even know if they'll get.
But they are excavating the cellar level for that, the entire front yard.
Right,
So,
okay.
You have all raised all my concerns. I just need, again, we're just going back to the stairs, those 2 additional stairs in the back. I'm just not even sure where you end up landing on the ground floor, because once you do, you're blocked by the stairs in front.
Yeah.
So I'm not even,
I don't know what they're for. They
Yeah.
connect the kindergarten rooms to the auditorium.
Right, to a dead
Why?
space, which is not going to be accessible by anybody or anything, so.
And there's a staircase right next to it. What do you
Right.
need another stair
Yeah,
for?
okay.
They make no sense. I wanted, with respect to the parking study, because they did do at least an available on-street parking study, and, but they oddly looked at the hours on Tuesday from 9 to 10 a.m. and 12 to 1 p.m. when the building's empty.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand, that's nice. So the weekday shift study therefore really needs to be redone during the peak hours of 3 to 3:30. So I'm looking at drop-off for the kids, 3 to 3:30, and pick-up or drop-off for the next sequence of classes, 5:30 to 6:30. There does appear to be ample parking, street parking on Saturday morning and midday. Like, if you look at it, there's a lot of parking spaces available. But at the same time, by eliminating the children from the parking calculations, that doesn't make any sense at all,
Also,
right?
that's the shift change when the hospital
Okay, so-
is also going, around that time is generally the shift change. So I think we need to be cognizant of that and see how that affects the parking demand and supply.
Right.
Also, when they have events, and if they're going to have a large auditorium, one could imagine that it's probably at night and could be during the week. So what is the impact on the neighborhood when 100 change cars show up to see
Right, and
kids?
where are they going to go?
Yeah.
Right? And, I think this could be responded to by them finding, for instance, there's this school adjacent that must have a parking lot. What about making an arrangement with the school for parking? There's a way around this instead of dragging this on with us, So, DOT, sorry, go ahead.
Although they just, for the adult students, they assumed it would be the same parking demand as the staff currently.
Yeah.
Which was 25%, and I don't really think that's based on, I don't know if you can make that assumption.
No.
They should base it on something more concrete.
Right, they were supposed to have given us information about their current parking demands.
They did.
Yeah. they
For the
did.
staff.
No, but
And the
for
teachers.
the students.
Oh,
Their
students.
current modal splits for current students. Because we talked about, they said 80% of the students are going to arrive by drop-off. So that's 80% so that's parents driving around the neighborhood looking for parking, right? Because you're not going to go home. The class is only 2 hours. You're going to come back, you're going to stay around.
Stick around.
Unless you live literally 5 blocks away. Also, DOT has indicated a willingness to install a no standing zone in front of the site and to reinstate 5 parking spaces in the area to compensate for that. I found the parking analysis difficult to follow because the data does not appear in a chart. So it was all in a narrative, so I was kind of like all over the place, not really being able to figure that out. And then it ignored, as we said, our discussion at the last hearing that not all drop-offs drive away. And then, right, okay, so the parking analysis really needs to be improved. Okay, anybody else?
Item number 17, 24014 BZ, 1620 Shore Boulevard, Brooklyn.
Okay. We still are waiting for the DOB objection with respect to the rear yard waiver. The applicant made a very odd statement about the questionable enforceability of a light and air easement that is included on a deed dated 2013. I'm not claiming to be a property law expert, but it's on a deed dated 2013. At the last hearing, we directed the applicant to work the easement question out with the neighbor or resolve this in court or modify the plans to eliminate the offending side yard incursion. The BSA cannot get involved in property disputes, and will not opine as to whether it's valid easement or not, but there it is on paper. The plans were resubmitted this time, but just in terms of what would happen if these became the plans. The electronic version is so light and the lines are bleeding that it's very difficult to read existing from proposed. So the actual set needs to be very clear when it's submitted electronically. With respect to the retention of the existing building to qualify for the special permit, The detail that was provided at the last hearing, and this one also, shows the first floor joist being lifted, but it looks to me that the walls are new. We need the drawings to show clearly that the existing walls of the first floor will travel with the first floor as it's lifted. And a note needs to be added to the drawing stating that removal of the existing exterior walls in excess of what is shown on the approved plans will void the special permit. The architect must come to the hearing. No discussion. If the architect doesn't come, we'll adjourn. Okay.
Regarding the zoning analysis, they're showing the side yard, I believe, as 3 feet on the west side, and actually it's 0.
What are they showing us, 3 feet?
The side yard, the western side yard.
Oh, yeah,
Which is
yeah.
the side yard under dispute.
Yes.
They're not, extending that side yard, but the
Right.
side yard existing
It's
is
obstructed
0
by 0.
because of that jut out. So I think they need to change that,
Okay,
because we're not approving a house with a 3-foot side yard.
right,
It's a 0.
right, okay.
Do we need 8 feet between buildings? What are they on, R31? So,
Well, they're not increasing the,
no. but
Well,
it should
vertically, if
probably
it's a vertical,
If it's a
Right.
vertical, right?
It
so they-
is a vertical
they need to
extension.
address that,
it's not a
Right.
horizontal extension.
right? So they need to address that
so, but
question.
under this special permit, because they have a 1949 survey that shows the jut out was there.
Right.
Right, on the ground floor.
Yes.
So under the special permit, though, I don't agree that the special permit should allow you to go this way when it's only a little bit of a jut out, but, whatever. But they're not asking to do that, they're just asking to vertically extend. The special permit allows them to vertically extend, so what you're doing is you're maintaining the degree of non-compliance at all those floors. And it's not, you're increasing it, but it's viewed as a special permit allows you to waive that. So that's different than if they
Yeah.
had a 3-foot side yard and wanted to reduce it further, which they wouldn't be allowed to do, right? That's different.
Right. But they do have a 0 side
Yes,
yard. They shouldn't
correct.
be portraying it as a
No, I
3-foot
agree.
side yard.
I agree. Anybody else? Okay.
Item number 18, 333 14BZ, 2323 East 5th Street, Brooklyn.
Sorry, scrolling. Okay. So no changes were made to the drawings to respond to any of our comments, and no new data was provided to support the proposed rear yard depth at the second floor. We asked to know the heights of the 2-story additions on the adjacent properties and the depth.
Yes, this is being adjourned.
Oh, they're adjourning?
She can't make it.
Oh.
She wrote us a letter.
That-
Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry, I didn't get that. When did that come?
Yeah, something like
Oh, I didn't get that, sorry. It was adjourned the last time also.
Yes.
Sorry.
June 14th.
She wanted to just put it on the next one, we have to, sort of help.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. That's what I get reading on my Dropbox. All right.
Item
Next
number
one.
19, 3415BZ, 2316 Ocean Parkway, Brooklyn.
Okay, I'm flustered. Okay. As we requested, the greenhouse floor area is included in the calculations. As we said at the last hearing, without a Sanborn map or a DOB drawing proving that the 0-foot side yard condition is pre-61, we can't permit it here. A note should be added to the drawing stating that DOB shall review the legality of the side yard incursion. The drawings are not dimensioned adequately. We don't know what the distances are from the side yard lines, from the garage, what the width of the frontage is. With respect to the rear yard reduction, I personally would prefer that it be set back to 24 feet as is the existing non-complying condition. However, I believe we discussed at the last hearing that this lot is unusual in that the 30-foot front yard requirement effectively flips the role of the rear yard, and because of the lot's configuration that follows the angle of Ocean Parkway, the developable portion of the lot is reduced. In addition, the donut, in this case, has been, the open space in the interior, has been very compromised on this block, with the adjacent home occupying the center green area. The building has 44 feet of frontage on its 63-foot wide lot, which is wide for the area where 25-foot frontages are the norm. But here there are two houses, I don't know if that's enough, but there are two houses on Ocean Parkway on wide lots with similar width frontages. I don't think it's appropriate, though, in their study to compare the frontage of this building to an apartment building. It's a different typology. You can't do that. Anybody else?
Well, they didn't provide an axiometric, which I think they should, because in this district, dormers are not permitted obstructions, so whatever they have on the roof there has to fit within the envelope. And they also need to provide the rear and side yard setbacks above 33 feet, which I don't think they do either.
Yeah, also the plans and the sections don't correspond in terms of the way the overhangs and the curved attics and all of those are indicated, specifically section P8 and others, so they're not matching the revised plan.
For that side yard, the bump out and, you know, the photos that they put forth to try and show its legality by talking about how the brick is the same brick. The brick does not appear to be the same brick. To me, it looked like they tried to match up the brick.
Yes, they did a nice job.
Yes, but it
Yes.
is not the same brick, which led me to believe that this definitely was built after.
Right. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't get the same brick,
Right.
right? Okay. All right. Yep.
New cases, item number 1, 13915BZ, 10-24, 154th Street, Queens.
Okay, just noting this is a legalization, and that the community board actually had it approved on condition with 9 opposed, and they conditioned on valet parking and limiting to 100 exercise machines. So I'd like the applicant to discuss the community board conditions, the valet parking capacity, and the plan for that, and the limitation on the number of machines on the site. Also, this one has a very strange configuration of tax lots. I wasn't quite sure whether it's one zoning lot. Also, the statement of facts doesn't discuss at all that a portion of the lot falls entirely within an R2A, which is an incorrect, by the way, designation. It's an R31, not an R2A. But the statement of facts needs to talk about that, even if the site is treated as if it's entirely in the C district, because it's only a little sliver. They should show how the commercial parking use is buffered from the neighbors. I'd like to know, what about sound attenuation in the windows? Is the sound system on limiters? The photos show the alarm system and sprinklers installed, and we do have fire department sign-off, so I think they're okay on this. And just in terms of site visit, these are very old photographs, so I assume the construction dumpster was there for the construction of the gym, and I'm hoping it's gone. Anybody know?
I didn't understand their parking calculations. They were based on a certain square footage, 7,720 square feet of what they call new net floor area, but the building is like 9,800 square feet. And then they're saying that they're providing 26 parking spaces, but the C of O has 32. And the C of O uses 9,223 square feet. So I don't understand what the discrepancy is.
The C of O actually says how many square feet?
I'd have to look it up right now, but that's what my notes say.
Okay. 9,007, how many?
It says 32 spaces on 9,223 square feet.
Okay.
Can they list the hours?
Yeah.
Their
the
websites
hours.
is different.
Anybody else?
Item number 2, 20415 BZ 98-100, 10th Avenue, Manhattan.
Okay. We have DOI and fire department sign off on this. My main concern is about the residential occupant directly above the spin studio. We know that these are like, it's like having a gigantic washing machine located underneath you. So I'd like to know, and we've asked this before on another case, whether Soul Cycle has successfully and without complaints used the details that they're showing in a similar situation, and if so, where? So below a residential occupant located directly above it, sharing, ceiling shares floor.
It's also a
Anybody else?
legalization.
Yeah. Ah,
They had revised their paperwork
They
to
did?
note it, yes, there was a
But did-
problem with, it was on our SharePoint, but was not factored into the initial folder. There was an extra submission, and then all the paperwork was revised.
So they gave us the
There's a new
fire
folder.
alarm and all that stuff?
Yeah, but it just wasn't put into the initial folder
Okay.
like it should have
so
been.
then the fire department wasn't aware that it was a legalization. Their sign off is based on plans. Right, so now we're back to needing to demonstrate that fire department signed off on the sprinklers, et cetera, right? Okay.
Okay.
Just with regards to the residential use above, because the highline structure is partially above the spin, so I'm not sure if there is a residential use. Yeah, I think most of the highline structure goes over it, most of it. There's like a small section, which I think by the Highline Special District, those uses are meant to be public front, so I'm not sure, but it would be
So
helpful
maybe
to
there's
get a
no upstairs
clarification.
neighbor and that's the
Yeah,
answer.
I think, but a clarification will be helpful.
Yeah, okay, good, thanks. That's it?
This concludes the public review session for June 13th, 2016. So,